everybody, this is Patti Negri. Welcome to the Witching Hour. The Witching Hour, usually really late at night when the veil between the worlds is the thinnest. But this Witching Hour is whenever you happen to be tuning into this podcast. This Witching Hour, the magic is in my beautiful guests. I bring you the best guests from all over the world in witchcraft, the occult, magic, spirituality. And today, I'm so excited. We're going all the way across the pond to this beautiful, I'm so excited about her book. So let me tell you about today's guests, Emma Katheryn, all the way from the UK. She's a staff writer at Which Way magazine, the House of Twigs blog, Stone Root and Bone blog, the Spiral Nature blog, and Gods and Radicals. She's spoken at a number of UK pagan events, including Magical Women Conference in London, and she's been interviewed by the Witch Daily Show podcast. You could find her at emmakatherynwildwitchcraft.com. We're just meeting right now, and I've just got her book, and it's this beautiful book called Witch Life, a practical guide to making everyday magical. And I must say, and I just told her this is almost like my book. It's purple. That's not. It's about this simple how to do it and put it into your life. So welcome. Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be on and chat to you all.
So tell us a little bit about your path, how you got here, you're into the craft, how this became your life.
Well, growing up in the UK, I grew up in Nottinghamshire. So that's like, Nottingham as in Robin Hood and the Sheriff of Nottingham, that place. So I live around 20 minutes outside of the city in quite a rural town. And so, my parents weren't religious. And so we've always had quite an open upbringing with a lot of freedom, I suppose. My parents were working class, so they were always at work. So the summer holidays, we were always left with my older sister, and left to roam. And so we've always had that open kind of, that space to grow, Yeah. And so then when I was a teenager and I was like exploring, I told my mum I was into this and she got me a book. And that's where it all began, really.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So tell us a little bit, obviously you're well-known, well-written, and all these beautiful things. So what is the idea behind this book? Again, makes me so happy. So what inspired this?
Well, I think, that sometimes one of the things that has really been impactful for my own journey and my own path was having the time to do stuff. So, and I think lots of people are in the same boat, whatever age you're at, and whatever point you're at in your journey as well. So for me, having children, going to work, going to school at the same time, and then still trying to make time for something that was meaningful to me. I found myself kind of going through, ups and downs. So sometimes I'd be going for ages without doing stuff and then feeling really, and a lot of the time, the only thing that was really stopping me, I suppose, was knowing what to do. Because, I don't know, sometimes you get it in your head that everything has to be this big gesture, this massive thing. And it doesn't. So really, I wanted to show that witchcraft can be accessible and it can be something that you can, embed into your everyday life,
That's beautiful. Yeah, I'm just looking at it. You're going through start out with the basics, your altar, casting or not to casting, going into meditation and trance work, and then you go into the Sabbats, because we need to know about the Sabbats.
Yeah.
Moon magic. Again, our chapters are so similar but different. Elemental magic, tarot, casting, dowsing. So what are some of your hints, without going through all, because I could just sit here and read your beautiful chapter. What are some things that people, so if somebody's listening to the show, maybe they're new to the craft, maybe they're not new to the craft, but like all of us, it's like, I don't have time for this or for that. And they forget they do their day-to-day life and they're just going about their day-to-day job and they forget how to put their practice. What are some of your best tips or tricks or ideas to really do it in your day?
You mentioned the part about like the Sabbats and the moon rituals. And sometimes, when you're so busy, you think, things are coming up and you think, I'm going to remember this and I'm going to plan this big thing. And then somehow the day slips past you and, you notice it the day after and you think, oh no, yesterday it was such and such. Oh no, never mind. And then you don't end up doing anything. And I think for me, the Sabbats in particular are not necessarily, I mean, I know some of them mark specific astronomical events, but actually, if you look at them in terms of the season, they mark like the ebb and flow. And it doesn't matter if you're a day late to do something, still do it. Do it the next day. Do it when you can. It doesn't matter. You know, and at the very least, you get experience. You get a practice run of a ritual. You think, oh, I didn't like this. You know, there's always things to learn from stuff. So don't worry if you miss the day. That's kind of.
I agree, because it is a whole season. If you start looking at the wheel of the year, it's like, we're going to the dark time, we're going to the bright time. It's spring, it's fall. If you don't hit that exact day, I even say the same with moon magic. It's like, the people, on the full moon, I missed the full moon by 1 day. You missed it by 1 day. You think
I count it as 3 days, you know, and then there's all of those. I always like a little bit of Hermeticism, and there's one of those sayings, you know, that really always stuck with me, and I think it applies to a lot of stuff. And the example was temperature, and it was the principle of polarity. So where does one thing end and the other thing begin? So if you take temperature, where does it stop being warm and begin to be cold? Or do you know what I mean? And it's kind of the same with the seasons and the moon cycle as well, you know. It's an ebb and flow. It doesn't just abruptly end and that's it. So yeah.
Oh, I like that. I like that about temperature, because I went right to temperature. It's like, it's warm at 80 degrees. So that doesn't mean 79 degrees is cold, right? It's just almost warm. At home, we have temperature wars. My husband likes it cold and I like it hot, and
same. I'm exactly the same.
It's funny that way. So anyway, as you were saying, I think I totally interrupted you. So as we don't have a lot of time and we see we missed something, so your first thing is don't worry on the exact day.
Yeah. It doesn't serve any purpose. So do your thing anyway. But there's lots of other little things that you can do on the daily. And I think one of the things I love about witchcraft is that it is so varied. You know, it's not just one thing. Your practice can be anything you want it to be, and it can incorporate lots of different things. So I adore plants. Like my partner is always telling me, no more plants, but I always have plants. But and so working with plants, whether that's growing them, using them in magic, in healing, for me that's a large part of spirit work as well. So, you know, just to expand on what you might include in your witchcraft practice, because there's a lot of things that you already do that probably fall under that banner, but maybe you don't realize that. So it's always good to look at your craft and your practice with kind of a new set of eyes, so you can see maybe what things are working and what things are maybe need tweaking a little bit, maybe.
Right. So if you're gardening, make that part of your magical practice. Yes. You're going to garden anyway, and whatever.
Yeah. And I think gardening is a really good example, because I think if you're working with the earth anyway in the cycles of the seasons, for me, that's already spiritual. Yeah. Animism is a big part of my own personal practice, and that all falls under that banner, I suppose. Working with the land, you get to know the nature, that, you know, and you really get in tune with the land. And I suppose if you think about it, it probably is a magical feeling. Sometimes we talk ourselves out of those magical feelings because we kind of maybe feel a bit silly, but you know, that instinct you feel right inside, I think that is kind of, you know, the essence of it, really.
So yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I try to do that from waking up. What is a moon cycle? Just incorporate that into my day. Do you incorporate anything into your life, like in your practices, like simple practices or daily or with your food or anything like that?
Absolutely. So I always bang on a lot about having my morning coffee outside in the garden every morning, whether it's summer, winter, raining, snowing, it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, sometimes it's quite enjoyable, but it's a really simple thing. And because I wake up quite early anyway, but you can do it whatever time you wake up. After a few, weeks, months, even years, you begin to really see your landscape with new eyes. No matter where you live, you might live in the city, you might live in the countryside. It doesn't matter. And it's those rhythms of life. And like I say, animism and spirit work is a large part of my witchcraft practice. So for me, it's about building that relationship with those places.
Okay, so animism, for my people who are going to go, what is animism? It's basically spirit is everywhere, right? God is in everything.
Yeah. You know, and when I first kind of heard of it, I thought, yes, this thing that I've felt for a long time, it has a name. And, you know, some people see it as the divine in everything. Some people see it as the natural world being imbued with spirit, you know, seeing it as ourselves as part of that natural world and connected to it as well. So, yeah, it can be it can add a depth to your practice, you know.
Yes. And again, I think so needed now because, again, we have to pay attention to the planet we're on and everything within it. It can't all be up here, whatever the heavens and spirit is people want to lead us to. That's what our craft is. It gives you responsibility. It gives you an understanding and even help along the way, tapping into that.
Absolutely.
So what are some of your, if you had like 3 of your best, incorporate this into your life and you will feel more into your practice or you will grow your practice?
Okay, the first one and the biggest one is, and sometimes the hardest, it's just kind of sitting in silence. You know, because we are so often used to being busy all the time, especially in our Western industrialized lifestyles where, you know, we have so many things at our disposal, but the downside of that is that, you know, we are constantly taken away from the things that we like to do. We constantly, you know, we work hard to achieve those things and it takes a toll. So sitting quietly can often be the hardest thing to do because of time, and it feels so weird just to sit and it feels like you're doing nothing, you know. But it's important because, first of all, it just allows you that space to just be in yourself without any expectation. You know, we all wear so many masks in our day-to-day lives, whether that's the mask of parent, worker, colleague, sister, daughter, you know. To those people, we're ourselves, but we're slightly different versions of ourselves. It's like we change masks, you know, and to suit that. And so sometimes just taking that time to sit, we can just be ourselves quietly, just with no pressure or no responsibility to anybody else, just to be ourselves. And I think that just gives you the headspace to kind of then begin to look at things. So I think that's really important. And then from there, you know, it allows you that time. You start getting used to taking that time to do things for yourself, to spend that time on your witchcraft practice if you feel you need to, you know, if it's important enough for you to want to do that. And for most of us, it is, you know. So that's one thing. The second thing, I think, just go for it. You know, it can be quite a self-conscious thing. And I think, especially when you start out, because you know that to most people in your everyday life, it is going to sound, I don't know, off the wall, to say the least.
Crazy, yeah.
You know? Because for most people, their perceptions of what witchcraft is very much, you know, Hollywood and literature, media. It's very sensationalized, and we all know not what it is. And so sometimes you can feel like you don't want to, because it's such an important part of ourselves, isn't it? You know, it's hard to explain to people who don't get it or who might not understand what it is. And it can leave you quite feeling vulnerable when you kind of maybe wanting to tell people, but you're perhaps scared of how they're going to react, or, you know, you don't want your friends to laugh at you, or worse, depending on where you live in the world, because we know that it, you know, people still suffer for witchcraft. So, you know, there's different factors, but if it's safe for you to do, I think embrace it wholeheartedly. Most people are open-minded, and once you kind of explain it, they're really rather quite interested. So, and I just think back on my own experiences, all those times when you just think, oh, I wish I'd have really gone for it then. But it's all a learning curve. But I think just go for it, embrace it if you can.
Great advice. Thank you. Yeah, and if somebody, you know, you lose a friend or two, and believe me, I have.
Yeah.
For their belief systems, and all of a sudden I'm evil. It's like, I'm the same person that you've been friends with for the last 20 years. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's sad when it happens, but sometimes it has to happen if you want to be, you know, your most genuine self. And you should be able to be your most genuine self.
Yes.
As well.
And how good of friends were they? Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's just time to move on. You don't have to hate them. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah. Sometimes, you know, our paths just part ways, and that's okay.
Yeah, that is okay. Okay, I'm going to make you come up with one more thing.
Okay.
So go for it.
Okay. So just do the thing, you know, just do it. So I think for me, having a daily practice is important. Now, a lot of people kind of, you know, might say, oh, that's a bit, you know, not everyone can do it every day, but, you know, you can define what your practice is. It can be, you know, if you meditate every day, then that is a practice because you're doing it every day. It might not be for long, it might be 5 minutes every day, but it's a practice because you're doing it every day. So do the things, try the things, experiment. Not everything has to be, you know, when we do spells, and I think we kind of get a bit romantic about it, and we want to do it all nice and all, you know, all flowery and all witchy and perfect. But sometimes you have to experiment. Sometimes those things go wrong. And, you know, when they happen, it's good. Don't be afraid of those things because it's all a learning curve. And so in my book, for example, I encourage people to try the spell and then adapt it, because you might not have the same things accessible to you that I have. You might have something different. And witchcraft has always been accessible. So, you know, experimentation is vital. It's okay. It'll be messy, but it's meant to be.
Life is messy. And
yes.
Beautiful. So how, again, incorporating, it's very much, our practice seems to be about balance and connecting into all that we're doing. How do you think whether we're, you know, witches or just regular people, are adjusting to everything going on right now? Is there extra things you think we should do? Again, we've been in a worldwide pandemic for 2 years. People have been fear-based. Now there's, you know,
it's crazy, isn't it? And it's one of those things where I think the state of the world and the things that go on all over the world, I think we have like 24-hour news, don't we now, at our fingertips. If it's not on the TV, it's on Twitter, it's on social media. Those places where you might go to escape it, it's there, it's everywhere. Whether it's COVID, what's going on in other parts of the world, you know, and it's one of those things where you're bombarded 24/7. It's almost insidious. And whereas before, where, you know, we might not have had access to the news for that, you know, for the 24-hour period. So it wasn't constant. So you might have heard it, and you feel selfish for kind of thinking, well, you know, I'm so bogged down with all this worry. But actually it's important. So for an example, my day job is I work with autistic children. I teach autistic children, and one of them, when all of this was going on in the news, and I think it applies to all children actually, we often ignore them when it comes to these more serious matters because we don't want to worry them more. But they have the same access to the stuff we have access to, and they're seeing everything in the same way that we're seeing it as well. So this particular kid was talking about it all, and you find yourself thinking, well, actually, it is important that we discuss these things honestly, but also that we take a break from that constant worry and stress, because we start to feel guilty because there's so much wrong with the world. We as personal individuals, we want to help everyone, but we're in their, you know, I'm in their position to help many people as much as I would like to do. And the vast majority of us are the same. We're all probably trying to struggle to keep our own, you know, lives steady. And so I think it's important that self-care is a part of that. And we sometimes think, oh, well, I'm worrying about this and having this self-care, and I'm not going through what other people are going through. But that's a useless game of comparison, because, you know, it doesn't help or serve anyone. So self-care is important.
Yes, very much so right now. Because if we're out of balance, everything else, that's what it's pulling in: self-care, taking care of yourself, protection, whatever that means to you,
Yeah.
whatever techniques you use. I love that you work with autistic children. Now, does your belief system, does your work as a witch color that somehow? Again, the knowledge that you have, the knowledge that just from who we are.
I think so. I think it has a lot to do with empathy because, for a lot of children anyway, when you're going through, childhood at different stages, but particularly for kids with autism who have different. So autism is one of those things where it might be one thing in the environment that is the stressor. It might be lots of different things, and it's sometimes the way our society is set up and the way our lives are led, sometimes children with autism can struggle to kind of deal with that. And so we try and enable the kids to have different strategies and all of that kind of thing. But I think for me, the most important thing is empathy, because to have someone understand what it feels like to be othered, they don't necessarily know what it is I do in any great depth. Yeah. But to just to have that empathy and to have that ear, and I think having that is important in the work, and I think that directly comes from my witchcraft practice personally.
That's beautiful, and I'm sure it does. Just again, the awareness, the consciousness that we strive for, therefore get it's a whole different
thing. Yeah. And it's the whole as above so below. I know it's a cliche almost in the witchcraft world, but if I feel like I'm controlling the classroom environment and I'm calm and I'm creating that safe space for the kids, and they're going to respond to that, and it's all of those kind of things, which we do in magic when we're doing spell work and ritual. That's what a lot of the showy stuff is for, isn't it? It's setting the scene and and it's the same kind of concept.
That's beautiful. And speaking of rituals and things, as I know, because again, you have this section on the Sabbats and the Wheel of Year coming up. We have coming up, Osrara is coming up right about as soon as this thing. So what are some of your ideas and thoughts, what you do for that holiday?
Osrara is one of those things that is fun, isn't it? Whether it's because in the UK, and I don't know if it's the same in other parts of the world either, but where I live, like I say, most people who class themselves as Christians, who I know, go to church maybe when it's a wedding, funeral, Christmas, Easter. And, it's very much community based. So there's lots of different things. Though they might be led by the church, they're for the whole community. And so one of the favourite things I like about many of the Sabbats, but I don't know, for some reason it seems highlighted in Osrara, is that community aspect. Anyone can take part, it brings communities together. And I think Osrara does that, especially in a way, Easter egg hunts and that kind of thing. And it's really fun. It's just fun. And spring is coming. So everyone just feels better at Osrara.
I do. I agree with that. And I know some people's like, oh, the Christians took all our holidays, and what does bunnies have to do with Jesus and eggs, and that's the pagan. But it's like it does. It can bring us together. It doesn't have to be yay. So yay, we can get together and go. Yeah,
exactly. And like I say, we spend a lot of time at school teaching the kids about tolerance and acceptance and seeing the similarities and finding those bonds to build community. And it's the same kind of thing. And especially when you look at the world, you think this is what we need more. We need more solidarity, more mutual aid, more community based, coming together.
Yeah, I think that was, respect and that are the two biggest things, because and I think it's a human trait, this or that. It's like sports team, this or that. Politics, it's this or that. Black or white.
And it seeps into everything, doesn't it?
Yeah. So why don't we just stay where we agree? What if we start with that one little place we agree and then go from there? But that takes some involvement.
And even in witchcraft, there's many different beliefs. It's not a unified. And so I think we can say your beliefs are important to you, and I accept and respect that, and we expect the same for ourselves. So it's all good.
Many truths out there.
Yes.
And another part of our being a witch, practicing the craft, is divination and things. So I know you actually even put in a chapter about divination, casting things, tarot, automatic writing, and dowsing. Now, what
Yeah.
are some of your ideas or thoughts for people? Okay, again, maybe they're new into this, going,
Hmm.
oh, I don't know that I know
Yeah.
that stuff.
Well, divination can be fun. Okay, so learning the tarot is one of those things that I think as witches, when you go through it, and I think everyone's done it, where you get the deck and you get your book and you try and learn it by rote, and it's so disheartening. And I think when a lot of people say they don't like the tarot, I think it's because that method of learning has put them off.
Yep.
I think there's many different ways you can learn the tarot so that it's meaningful to you, and it's worth exploring those. And I always think it's important to remember that the tarot in particular doesn't just have to be a tool of divination. It can be. I love giving tarot readings. I love getting tarot readings. It can be fun. But there's many ways you can use tarot cards, and I like to use them for altar work, for example, if I'm going through a hard time or there's some quality I want to embody, whether that's strength or calm, or to just be balanced. You can take the particular card that you feel drawn to, and you can meditate on it on your altar. You can have it somewhere where you can see it, you can spend time there. So there's lots of different ways of using the tarot. So the tools of divination are very varied, and I think that's one of the things I like about it. But it's just fun. It's so fun.
It is. And again, it's insight into yourself, into anybody you are reading. Yeah, I just saw for the first time, we just had a big gathering thing last week, and we had vendors, and there was a person who they created this, it's like a little wooden thing for one tarot card. And I'm like, what is that for? And exactly what you said, there's your card of the day. You need the strength, you need the whatever that is. And it was made a little, almost like a little altar, just the holding of the one card. And it was adorable. And like, oh my God, yes, I could see that right today, whatever. And you put it right there.
Yeah. And, and I think there's so many ways you can use divination. One of the things I like to encourage people to do is to kind of explore. And I like particularly throwing lots. And particularly because you can collect little things that you can throw, and you can assign meaning to everyday items. So in my little lot throwing kit, I have a dice which I might use to represent luck or fortune. I have a chicken foot which came from food. I'm personally vegetarian, but my family eat meat, and it came from food. But anyway, and that represents travel. There's lots of things you can use. You can use a shell to represent emotions, water, and so there's lots of different things that you can collect and use, and you can apply whatever associations to them you want, and just explore and have fun with divination.
Yeah, I agree that's one of my favorites too. And I don't really use it lately. I should. It's like almost you can go in your little junk drawer and find,
yes,
heart. Oh, that's love. Oh, here's this little whatever.
And I love that because normally there's little like memories attached to those things as well, which I think add potency. I love that.
I do too. Thank you for that inspiration, because I got to go see where all my I have a little shell of things that I put those little things.
Yeah, like lost earrings, and where you've just got one left. And
yeah, exactly. And I've got 100 of those. So if anybody's going, what is that? That means basically it used to be called throwing bones, or it is bones. You would lay them out and where they land together. Oh, like if the shell is on top of the heart, is on top of the key, is on top of the coin, is on, basically. And you learn to read it.
Yeah, and it's so much fun. And it's fun to do as a group as well, with a group of friends, bottle of wine or whatever, couple you like to have. It's just fun. So. Yeah.
And it's a good way to develop that intuition coming, the same way as you said with tarot. And yes, I think everybody starts out with tarot. Here's the book. I will never memorize all that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, look at the book. Well, then why don't we throw away the book and see what
Yes. One of my favorite exercises I like to give people to do, and it takes a long time because you have to go through the major arcana and then through the minor arcana. So it takes a long time. And I say, choose 1 or 2 cards a day. And you kind of spend a couple of minutes just really looking at the card. And you're looking at everything. So the colours, the images, you're kind of thinking about what those things inspire in you. Do you find the colours cold, and what do you think about that? And and you're just trying to see what you can notice and what that feels and what you think about the card. And then I get them to compare that to what's written in the book, and quite often there's a lot of similarity because, of course, we know that's what the tarot does. It kind of draws on those symbols that, you know.
Yeah, the energy coming up, which
yeah.
is the picture and the color and the intent put into all of it. So that's
Yeah.
helping you develop your gift.
Exactly. And it's a good way of getting rid of that imposter syndrome that I think we all have when we're learning, particularly divination, and especially when you start reading for or divining for other people, because there's that awful moment when you start talking and you're looking at the person's face and you can't read it and you're thinking, oh no, am I just talking rubbish?
Yeah. That's what that face thing is.
Yeah, I used to have to fight the constant urge to go, is that right? Tell me, is that okay? Right. How's that?
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
That makes sense. Because it doesn't to me, but no, it's
yeah, and you know, luckily people say yes.
Yeah.
But it's hard to not do that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So practicing
I didn't even know that term, the imposter syndrome. That's good, because I always say you get too left brain, you overthink it. You have this beautiful, right, intuitive, coming right from spirit, coming right from your higher answer, and then you go, what?
Yeah, I just think it's another one of those things that's a human thing, you know, because it can happen in anything where you get somewhere, you achieve something that you've really wanted to achieve, and then you feel like you don't deserve it, or you know, and of course it's only that beginning nervousness and where you're still finding your feet, but it can be hard to overcome.
Right. And just get past it. Embrace the fear.
Yes.
The fear. You know, because otherwise fear freezes you in your tracks. Or fear's $1 million industry. Think of it like you're going to go see a scary movie or ride a roller coaster. That's what I'm just so big on lately, because that kind of fear inspires you, and I'm so scared and I'm going to do it. You know, embrace the other kind of fear that way. That, oh, I'm so scared.
Yeah. You know, I used to box and kickbox in my younger days, and I used to like to compete in the ring, and people always used to say, oh, how can you do it? But actually the worst thing was going sparring at my club, you know, because there were people there who were really, really good, and you have to spar against really, really good people, and it's that fear, and you have to overcome that fear. And actually when you're in there and you realize you can hold your own, and it's the same in life in many different situations and in witchcraft as well, once you do it and you start realizing that actually, yes, I can do it, I am doing it. You know,
right now I'm doing it.
Yes, that's a powerful feeling that we should all embrace in our witchcraft practice.
I love that. Well, I have so many questions, but the clock. So people, I want them to get your book. Tell people where they can find you, what you have going on, your social media, where they can get your beautiful book.
Oh, it is lovely, isn't it? I love the cover.
It is. It's so pretty.
So they can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Emma Katheryn, Wild Witchcraft. On all of those, I'm sure you'll soon find me. You can find the book at Llewellyn and all reputable book sellers. Reputable. Yes. And I also write for Gods and Radicals, and I have various articles on the web, most of which I share on my social media, so you can find them all there.
Okay, so everybody please check out Emma Katheryn, Witch Life, a practical guide to making everyday magical. So thank you so much, Emma, for coming on. This is beautiful. I'm so excited to actually finish reading your book. And I hope to come see you soon. I'm actually crossing the pond.
I know.
So
wow. I know. We'll have to see if we can catch up maybe. It'd be so good.
I
love meeting people in real life. It's fab.
Me too. It was fabulous as well. So thank you. Thank you for visiting the Witching Hour.